It's time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us are the Sun's football editor Charlie White and the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross. Welcome along to you both. We'll hear from you shortly, but let's quickly run you through the Back Pages as they stand this Monday evening. Well, the I newspaper splits the lead between referee David Coote being suspended and the changing of the guard at Manchester United, with Ruud van Nistelrooy leaving the club just as Ruben Amorim arrives. The Guardian covers both those stories, describing Coote's alleged comments about Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool as a video nasty. At the top of the page, they also cover 8 big-name withdrawals from the England squad to face Greece and the Republic of Ireland in the Nations League. And Charlie's paper, The Sun, has more on those England withdrawals on the left-hand side of their back page. Dave Kidd's piece says that it's turned Lee Carsley's final games in interim charge into a messy affair. And in common with most papers, the Mail's back page also reflective of events at Old Trafford and at PGMOL. On the right there, they report on the news that Gary Lineker is leaving Match of the Day next summer after presenting the show since 1999. He will finish with the BBC at the 2026 World Cup. OK, right then. Welcome along to Charlie and to John. Obviously, we have to start with the suspension of the Premier League referee David Coote after a video emerged online of him appearing to make disparaging, derogatory and, quite frankly, rude comments about Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool. I just want to start off, both of you, but just gauging the sense of utter shock, or what your reaction was when you saw the video, when you heard about this story. Maybe, Charlie, you go first.
Yeah, total shock. The fact that if it's just unbelievable that any referee would be allowed to have themselves filmed and have such strong opinions. I think behind the scenes we'd know that if you ask lots of managers, they might say things about referees and vice versa. But yeah, and basically, I think this feeds into the conspiracy theories from lots of football fans and indeed managers and clubs that some referees have got it in for them. So, in terms of the PGMOL, they've had a really rough season so far. And today it's just taken, a turn that no one could have expected.
John, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, it took my breath away, frankly. I was absolutely staggered to see it. And it's one of those that you look online and you think, blimey, shall I click on that? And it really stuns you, shocks you. Look, I think it's acutely embarrassing and highly damaging for the PGMOL. The body looks after referees in this country. It plays into all manner of conspiracy theories, because let's be honest, I don't think they've ever been as loud and as pertinent as they have been perhaps in this season as last. Fans getting so carried away with these conspiracy theories. And look, Liverpool fans, they've just played Aston Villa. David Coote was in charge, and the timing of this video landing just seemed utterly crazy and beyond reproach. I mean, it really does take your breath away, really, and it is so damaging for the PGMOL. Look, I personally think Howard Webb, was a really good administrator. I think he's been a really good appointment, a strong appointment, but it has been beset by issues. No one, I think, in their right minds can ever accuse a referee to go out and be biased and not give their best professional performance, because that is what they are these days, professionals. Having said all that, I do think that this now, for every fan of a club, that is really beset in their sort of the ways and their support and their passion for their team, will go, well, yeah, but that's referees for you. And it's just so damaging on that level. And it's so, hurtful for the good referees that we do have, for the standards that we have. And it's clearly something that's going to be so difficult for Howard Webb to kind of overcome and restore confidence and faith. Because I tell you what, there'll be a lot of clubs will be going, well, told you so. Because a lot of clubs do at the moment have this paranoia that feeds into agendas against their club. And frankly, you see this video, and it's as I say, so damaging, I think, for referees and what they stand for.
Yeah, so the video obviously is online. At the time of recording, it's worth saying that it still, as far as we're concerned here at Sky Sports News, remains unverified. There is a process underway with David Coote's employers. We have to respect, guys, you know, the PGM will have to go through that process, and he will have his right of reply. He'll have his chance to have a say and defend himself in that. But in your paper, Charlie, and in the Sun, you've got that headline of Coote faces boot, and then ref's X-rated Klopp rant could end career. Here it is. I mean, this is the thing. Those last three words, if this is indeed proven, and I don't want to be naive about this, but you understand where we're at, obviously, as a broadcast news channel, Charlie. It is, I guess, very hard to see him involved in this role in football again.
Yeah, I mean, my colleague Martin Lipton has written in that back page story that Coote has accepted to Howard Webb that the video is real, that it is him, but he has no recollection of saying what we've seen on the video. So yeah, you know, it's incredibly damaging for the PGMOL, and it's, you know, obviously, you know, goes without saying, incredibly damaging for the referee himself. And you know, when we get to the bottom of it, and when there's a final decision made, you know, I would be very surprised if we see him referee in the Premier League again. Who knows what else he could do elsewhere in football? Maybe the EFL. We don't know. We've got to wait for the investigation. But yeah, it's I still can't get over this story today. It's an absolute shocker for all referees, actually. And you know, I actually have sympathy because there's many good refs, and I know we complain about refereeing standards and that sort of thing, but it's never been as tough to be a ref as it is at the moment. Not least, I think VAR makes it more difficult. We've got the speed of the game and players trying to con refs, let's be honest, at all levels. And I think there'll be lots of referees today, in the EFL as well, who will be rolling their eyes at this story because it's not making their job any easier whatsoever.
Yeah, and listen, that there is no suggestion here that David Coote is not a good referee. He's been in the Premier League for 6.5 years. He's a FIFA recognised official as well. But John, same question to you about where next for him, or you know, ultimately, can he come back from this if indeed it is proven, as I'll say again, and also that point that Charlie's just made, you know, for referees as a whole, they have a tough enough time as it is. And, you know, they must feel, well, right, we're going to get judged now, you know, damned if we do, damned if we don't, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I do think, David, that what else could the PGMOL do today? I think they acted swiftly. They quickly put out statements saying that we were aware of the video, looking into it. They then, you know, took swift action to suspend the official and said you can carry out a full investigation. So let's see what that throws up. But, you know, I do think it plays into this whole sort of kind of, you know, spotlight on referees at the moment. I mean, we analyse and sort of kind of scrutinise. I mean, your Ref Watch, you know, show on a Monday morning is fascinating viewing, and there's a lot of decisions, and sort of kind of VAR has never been so under the scrutiny and so on. But Charlie's right. I do think that sometimes we overlook the fact that how difficult it is to be a referee, and I don't think they're always afforded the respect that they deserve. In no way am I excusing, you know, that, you know, if what has been alleged, said, and sort of kind of you can see on and hear on the video is indeed a sort of kind of a true reflection, that cannot in any way excuse it. But I do think that at some point, I think that respect should be shared around, and basically we should be more respectful in the game. I think it's long been the campaign from the PGMOL to kind of offer that respect. But all this, having said that, is so difficult to kind of garner that respect and show that respect when you've got stories like this going around, because honestly, it goes back to the managers. Every manager in every club, whether it be Premier League or across the EFL, will go, wow, and just be absolutely, you know, blown away by that story. The fact that it's obviously happened to Jurgen Klopp, who's one of the all-time Premier League greats, you know, just only sort of, you know, highlights the issue even more. And you know, it's incredibly distressing, I think, you know, for everyone really concerned. And I think it's, you know, it's incredibly damaging really at a time when referees need more support and more respect really. So, let's see how it plays out. But I do really worry about these kind of. It will add to the conspiracy theories. It'll add to anger. It'll add to angst. It'll add to the kind of social media kind of hatred towards and lack of respect towards officials. And I think from that point, that is the most damaging thing of all. That if found guilty, that David Coote could possibly be up against. I'm afraid.
OK, appreciate your comments and your insights, and obviously something that is such a sensitive story. We're going to take a quick break, but the other side of which we'll look at more of the back pages, and the Times has more of the big story around Manchester United. Up next, we'll cover that and the 8 England players pulling out of the latest squad for the final 2 Nations League games before Christmas. You're watching Back Pages tonight, so it's a warm welcome back to the Sun's football editor Charlie Wyatt and the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross. OK, gents, let's get into Manchester United, shall we? And Ruben Amorim, as we've known, this today, 11th of November, that he would take over as Manchester United's new head coach. First thing he does, though, is decide that he has no longer the needs of the services of Ruud van Nistelrooy. I wonder, John, is this a sign of things to come? He's a man who very much knows his own mind. Obviously, he has his own plans for his coaching staff too.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to be strong-willed on this one. And basically, it would have been a nice, convenient sort of overlap, really, and embracing Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's obviously been part of the previous manager's coaching staff, done a fine job sort of as standing, remains a club legend, revered by the fan base. But I do actually think if you're going to succeed, you've absolutely got to do it your way. And therefore, I think it marks a sort of a point in time of the new man's regime, and it's Ruben Amorim, to me, being embraced there by sort of the United hierarchy and on his arrival is just taking it and saying that actually I want to do it my way. I think it's well known at Sporting that he does have a sort of a band of coaches around him, and he wants to do it a certain way. He's certainly wedded to his tactics and his formation, for example. And I just think to give yourself the best opportunity, you've kind of got to surround the people that you know and trust. There used to be a sort of a time, didn't there, when sort of kind of old managers, sort of kind of foreign managers would come in and basically embrace a sort of a coach who used to play for the club. I'm even thinking back to the days of Arsene Wenger and Pat Rice, for example, and it worked a treat. But it's not for everyone, and I think each manager has to do it their own way. And basically, Amorim clearly feels that actually I'd be happier and need to make a sort of a clean break. And I bet that Van Nistelrooy, I hope has been sort of kind of treated well, and sort of I'm sure he has been, and will say goodbye and good luck, because honestly, the way he's spoken with such affection about the club, I think everyone, no one would want to see Amorim succeed more than Ruud. Yeah, and look, Charlie, we saw how much that was real mutual affection, wasn't it, between Ruud and the fan base after that 3-0 win over Leicester, and a decent, 4 games in charge, 3 wins, a draw. How do you feel that he's handled himself in all of this?
Yeah, I think he's handled himself well, and let's not forget, he was part of the Erik ten Hag season. But he actually leaves Old Trafford with his head held high, doesn't he? Because he stayed on, he managed over those 4 games, and he's actually done himself probably more good in these last 4 games than he did under Ten Hag when he arrived a few months ago. So he's actually done his chances of getting another job some good, to be honest. And I'm sure one day he'll be welcome back at Old Trafford. Who knows, if he does well in his next managerial job, he might be in contention for the main job at United. But look, he won't be surprised in terms of what's happened, and he'll obviously be looking to prove himself somewhere else.
John, what do you make of Ruud van Nistelrooy and ultimately his path forward now, and ultimately he could be a very good fit for that hot seat in years to come? Yeah, I think he's done enough to suggest that actually he's a manager in waiting.
There's that connection. United love a kind of connection, with a former player, don't they? It's part of the history. It's part of the culture there, and he's fitted in well. I also think that as a manager moving forward, he's just strengthened his CV. He's said to other clubs as well that actually we'd be happy to take you. We really would. We respect what you've done there. I think he's worked well with the players. He's connected with the fans. He just gets it, and I think that basically, I think there's a really good manager in there, and I think if it's not United straight away, then I do think he could work easily somewhere else and do another good job.
And what about the task facing Ruben Amorim, Charlie? And you look at the first 3 fixtures he's got after the international break. It's a relatively gentle start, isn't it, for him at Old Trafford? But then, when you look at December, it's, I think, a game at Arsenal on December the 4th, the derby at the Etihad on December 15th, and then a League Cup quarter-final against Tottenham away only 4 days after that. Is that ultimately, do you think, when he will be judged for the first time properly, is on those kind of games?
I think it's going to be really tough from the start, despite the last few results for United. Look, last night, Amorim gave his final press conference after his win at Braga with Sporting. He spoke to the journalists and basically said, he'd be naive to think that it's not going to be a very difficult job. He knows it is a monumental challenge in front of him. There are so many things wrong with that squad at the moment. All the United fans know that. So I think he will get plenty of time. He needs a lot of time to do this job, and United are nowhere near the type of side that we saw at Sporting Lisbon, take apart City last week. So he needs several windows, but obviously he's going to have real difficulties getting rid of a few of those players that have all been, appalling buys. I think we know they are. So yeah, it's a huge job.
Does this feel, John, like the final piece of the jigsaw in terms of the management side of the club? I'm not talking about players, in terms of the management and, what Ineos are putting into play here. So obviously, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Sid Brailsford, the ones who were there to welcome him. Big hug from Omar Barada, the CEO. Dan Ashworth was there. Jason Wilcox was there. In terms of this side of the operation, not the 11-plus players on the pitch, do you feel like this is now United properly now moving with concerted, positive feeling in the right direction?
Yes, absolutely. I think that they've recruited one of the hottest prospects, one of the hottest young managers in European football. I think he's got a very designed and clear tactical approach, which United have lacked, I think, under Ten Hag, to be honest, despite the trophies. And I do think that they've got the hierarchy in place. They've got everything there, and they need that platform. They need that faith. They need that kind of steadiness and that resolve to support the manager. It might not be immediate. It might take time. He's moving into a club mid-season, and therefore I do think he needs every bit of support. But I really think that this is a positive appointment for United. I'll tell you what, it'll be really good for the Premier League. I do think he's one that excites me. I think that he's got potential to succeed, and I think I think United have had a long time away from being kind of title contenders. And I do think this is the guy that your fans will turn to and really believe that he can get them back there. And I must say that from everything that I've seen and, know about him, I do think he's got that every opportunity, really, to be a very exciting appointment for United.
Let's get to England, because we are now into an international break. Nations League games coming up against Republic of Ireland and Greece. Greece first. And, of course, that's a pivotal game in Athens, Charlie. And yet, it's a very, very different squad to the one that Lee Carsley originally named because of all of these withdrawals. What do you make of it?
I think it's an absolute shambles, and I feel really sorry for Lee Carsley. This wouldn't have happened under Gareth Southgate. It didn't happen under Gareth Southgate. A huge part of his time in charge is the way he got players all reporting for international duty, even if a few of them had aches and pains. There's other players already not in this squad, apart from the 8 that pulled out today, like, Kobe Mainu and John Stones. And I think the FA and Thomas Tuchel are to blame. I think it's ludicrous that Thomas Tuchel's not starting till January the 1st. He should be in charge now. Whether he wanted, not come into the job until January is irrelevant. He should be here now. It's quite actually important. I know people are saying it's only the Nations League, but if England want to get promotion out of this group, they have to do well in Athens on Thursday, and it is, linked to Thomas Tuchel, because if England finish second in this group, next March is going to be playoffs and not, World Cup qualifiers or some friendlies. So I think the FA have made a huge mistake in they may have got the right man, but they've made a complete mess of it by not having him in charge now, because I don't think we'd have seen as many players pull out as we've seen today.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Charlie, I don't know if there's anything to do with his exit from Bayern and, is it being officially in charge now? Yes, but ultimately, getting going in the new year. But I wonder, John, do you agree with those sentiments from Charlie about, ultimately, these next two games, it's kind of pulled the rug from underneath Lee Carsley a little bit?
Yeah, I'm incensed. I completely agree with what Charlie said. And I honestly, I feel really angry about it. Someone who's incredibly passionate about covering the England football team, I think it's a complete and utter joke. I think it's wrong on so many levels. I mean, honestly, how they've, brought in a new manager and then allowed him to start on January the 1st, it was ridiculous, an absolute farce in the first place. Last week, we learned that they haven't even spoken on the phone, Tuchel and Carsley. So how's that for planning long term for Thomas Tuchel, really welcoming in sort of kind of, young players into the senior squad? What a joke that is. And then you've got sort of kind of almost half a squad pulling out. And why are they doing that? Well, they're probably under pressure, for their club managers, which I think, by the way, is an absolute disgrace. That completely, really disregards England fans, international football fans, and everyone that is passionate about following their country, and also about the players who ultimately probably want to play for their country, but also feel pressured by their clubs. That is an absolute joke. And you are left then with an absolute farce of a squad. And they're all saying, basically, well, it's only Lee Carsley, isn't it? It's only England. And basically this time around, we've got these two games. It's only the Nations League. It's completely disrespecting the shirt, in my view. It's an absolute joke. And I think it's absolutely appalling. And I do think it all comes back to the FA installing a manager and then not, installing him to take over straight away. This idea that he takes over on January the 1st, I don't care about the Bayern Munich exit or the payoff or anything like that. This is an absolute joke, honestly. It's ridiculous. It's a really bad look all round on the clubs, on the England national team, on the players, on the FA itself. It's ridiculous. It's highly embarrassing. And, it's an absolute farce, this one, for me.
Charlie, I'll leave the last word to you. Got about a minute or so left. But what does it say about player burnout? 8 withdrawals. We know that this is a very live topic at the moment, and it's not just from any clubs, they're from big clubs too.
Yeah, it's a live topic, of course. But, we've of course seen that the players that have pulled out today are at the so-called big clubs with big squads. The managers don't have to play the players all the time. I think it will probably, the situation will be worse in January, because we've got, an extra, two Champions League rounds. So I have real sympathy for the national bosses, because, potentially it's going to get worse. We've obviously got the Club World Cup coming up. But ultimately, I think a few of the Premier League managers have really tried it on today.
OK, gents, we're going to have to leave it there. Charlie and John, thank you so much. We've dealt with 3 really sort of meaty stories there with David Coote and Manchester United and now the England squad for these upcoming Nations League games. We appreciate your comments, your insights, as always. We'll see you again very, very soon indeed.